Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, or alternatively, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording this meeting. Your video or audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Please welcome our club president, DTM, Andrew Byrne.
Thank you very much, Carolina. We welcome our guests, and that this week is Johnny Randolph. At the end of the meeting, we're going to give you an opportunity to reflect on what you experienced during this meeting, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, as another reminder for any officer that has not yet done their officer training, be aware that officer training officially ends at the end of February. If you need to know where officer training is taking place, please let me know. I have an entire about 60 different locations and Zoom numbers to hook you into so that you can do an officer training that counts for this cycle. However, we are not that far away from April, where we start considering people for our succession plan and new officers. If you're thinking about an officer role, go to the officer training, get yourself some advanced knowledge about what you're going into, and that'll be very helpful. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Mr. President Andy Byrne, fellow Toastmasters, and dear guests. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's online presenters meeting. It's my honor to be your Toastmaster of the day for tonight's meeting. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day here in the United States. The theme for tonight's meeting is Valentine's Day traditions from around the world. Love is in the air. If you're in the US, you're probably thinking about romantic dinners at fancy restaurants, bouquets of flowers, and the ever-popular box of chocolates. But these commercialized and mushy American traditions can be thought of as just that, American. Around the world, different countries and cultures have put their own spin on Valentine's Day and how to best celebrate it with their sweethearts. Some of these traditions are wonderful, some are quirky, and others are just flat out weird. Tonight, we're going to take a look at a few of these. In Germany, the pig is just as common of a Valentine's Day symbol as Cupid is here in the United States. Germans include swine as part of their Valentine's Day gifts and celebrations. In fact, many Germans often gift their Valentine with pig-shaped chocolates. I was born in Germany, so I'm assuming my dad did not use that tactic. But as you can imagine, giving your sweetheart some candy shaped like a pig here in the United States would probably not have a happy outcome. By the way, what did one pig say to the other on Valentine's Day? Don't go bacon my heart. Okay, here's another tradition. In South Africa, many women are not discreet about who they would like as a Valentine. In fact, they feel you should wear your heart on your sleeve. That is literally on your sleeve. The women pin the names of their love interests on the sleeves of their shirts, hoping to draw the attention of that special someone. I think I'll try that with my hubby. We'll see if it works. The Danish tradition for Valentine's Day takes the term secret admirer to a whole new level. In Denmark, it is customary for the men to write anonymous and funny US-style Valentine's Day notes for their sweethearts. However, they sign them with a series of dots rather than their name. If the woman guesses the identity of the sender, he has to give her an Easter egg on Easter Sunday. So, are you ready for a sweetheart of a meeting? Our meetings consist of 4 main parts. The first and newest part is the tip of the day. This is a 3 to 5 minute presentation of a tip about technology, technique, or leadership. The second part is the prepared speeches. This is where people present a speech for a particular project from their pathway. The third part is table topics. This is the impromptu speaking part of the meeting where we practice speaking off the cuff. Often these impromptu speeches give us hilarious results. And the final part of the meeting is the evaluation portion of the meeting. Each speaker will receive an evaluation. This is a great opportunity for all of us to learn from the feedback each speaker receives. The general evaluator will also give us an overall meeting evaluation. Excuse me, I seem to have had a frog in my throat. I hate it when that happens. It always seems to leave me a little hoarse. We now interrupt this online presenters meeting. Breaking news. Here's a news brief. Tonight's online presenters volunteers have been announced. They are all sweethearts. I will now introduce them. They will each have 1 minute to describe their role for tonight's meeting. Our timer for tonight is Sunny Fridge. Sunny, will you please tell us your duties tonight as timer?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. You're a real sweetheart. Greetings, Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. As timer, I will time the prepared speakers, the table topic speeches, and the evaluations. I will also alert each speaker of the time that they have left using the green, yellow, and red signals. Depending on the length of the speeches, at 5 minutes, I will show the green card. At 6 minutes, if it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, I will show the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I will show the red card. Table topic speakers, you will have 1 minute to 2 minutes to do your speech. At 1 minute, I will show the green. 1:30, I will show the yellow, and 2 minutes, I will show the red card. It will remain showing until you finish speaking. And the individual evaluations, at 2 minutes, I'll show the green. At 2.5 minutes, I will show the yellow. And at 3 minutes, I will show the red card. When called upon during the evaluation portion of the meeting, I will give my report. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Sunny, for a very detailed and exact description of your duties for tonight. That was great. Next up is our counter, Carolina Ramirez. Carolina, could you please describe your duties for tonight?
Of course, Jim. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. My role as an accounter is to count the awkward sounds, the grunts, the strange pauses, and I will give you my report at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you, Carolina. Next up is our grammarian, Trisha Smith, who stepped in at the last minute. So thank you for that, Trisha. And could you please talk about your role tonight?
Yes, I have a good record these last few weeks, stepping in at the last minute. I wanted to verify the word of the day, heart. Am I right? Or is it sweetheart? One of the two. So my role is going to be listening to how everybody's speaking and using word of the day. Can somebody verify that? Heart or sweetheart? Heart. Okay, thank you. And I'll give the report at the end of the meeting. Back to you.
It actually is sweetheart.
Actually, David, would you mind giving the definition of sweetheart since you're mentioning the word of the day, please? Oh, if you're not ready, I can find it and read it.
According to your definition, I think you're the one who added it to the agenda. Sweetheart is a noun, either a pair of lovers in relation to each other, an affectionate or familiar term of address, or a beloved person. You can put that in the chat.
Thank you both, Tricia and David. Tonight's watcher for tonight is Joni Renee Laidlaw. Joni, could you please share your duties for tonight?
The difference between heart and sweetheart is the difference between saying, I'll be watching you, and I'll be watching you. As your watcher today, it will be my job to pay attention to everyone's background, movement, usage of the online space, and I'll be watching you. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you, Joni. Or should I say, thank you, Joni. Tonight's chat monitor is Isabel Kaduri. Isabel, could you please describe your role?
Yes, as a chat monitor, my role is to monitor the comments in the chat by our members. During the evaluation segment, I will give a report highlighting the most noteworthy comments posted during the meeting. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Isabel. Our vote counter for tonight is Carolina Ramirez. Carolina, could you please talk about your role for tonight?
Yes, of course. I'll give you a link on the chat and you could vote for your favorite table topic speaker, evaluator, or prepared speaker. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you, Carolina. This brings us to the tip of the day. Tonight's tip of the day will be given by Rosina Duncanson. Take it away, Rosina.
Thank you so much, Kim. So my tip of the day is aligned with leadership. Think about leading with a heart. I remember when I first became a leader, I always thought that leaders just told people what to do. They just gave instructions. They just mandated that things happen. But as I grew in the leadership role, I realized that leadership is a lot more than just giving direction. Leadership is a part of, or also requires you to have a heart. And there's 3 takeaways for today that I believe will allow you to lead with a heart. The first one is heart to heart, knowing what your team member needs, having one-on-one discussions, truly getting to understand their leadership style, their communication style, who they are, what their desires are. Having that heart to heart lets you really know who you're working with, so you know how best to support them and how best to help them on their role. The next thing is mentoring and encouraging. We all make mistakes. And so when they may have a mistake or something was to happen, picking them back up again, encouraging them and mentoring on their role is a big part of leading with the heart. Because the truth is, we don't all start knowing everything. And so a really good leader helps someone along the way. One of the hardest things I also noticed was this one in particular. This last one is kind of intense. And sometimes not everybody is really a fit for the role that they're part of. Sometimes it's really helpful to support someone with understanding that the role that they've chosen may not always be the role for them. And sometimes leading with the heart requires you to support someone with identifying that maybe something else might be better. So when you think about leading with the heart, remember those 3 things. 1, take the time to truly know your team members. 2nd, remember there is great power in mentoring, encouraging, and supporting your team members. But it also requires you to take the time, and if something doesn't fit, if something isn't right, helping them to be placed where they may be needed. Sometimes in jobs it's called maybe transferring them, maybe letting them go, or supporting them with the next step. But all of these things will help you to be a leader with a heart. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Rosina. Great advice for our workplace as well as Toastmasters. I think pretty much everything you said we can apply here at Online Presenters. We now are moving on to the prepared speeches portion of the meeting. The first speaker for tonight is Jim Barber. Jim's speech is titled, "Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's ... Jim is practicing his speech for this year's International Speech Contest. And so his introduction by contest rules will be simply, Jim Barber, look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's... Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Jim Barber. We cannot hear you, Mr. Jim. Well, he unmutes.
Minor details. That is why practice is so important. Let's try this right. Okay. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Madam Contest Master, dignitaries, are my fellow Toastmasters and our most welcome guest, Johnny. Those were the words that opened my favorite, all-time favorite television show when I was a small boy, The Adventures of Superman. I dreamed how wonderful it would be to be a superhero, how great it would be to have superpowers. Sometimes when my dad would see me watching TV, he'd sit down beside me. He'd put his arm around me and he'd say, Jimmy, when you finally discover what your superpower is, imagine how great you will be. And he was right. He was beyond right. He was brilliant, even though he didn't know it. My dad was telling me one of the fundamental principles, one of the great truths of life, when he said those simple words, imagine how great you'll be. Because, my fellow Toastmasters, I do have a superpower. And so do you. Your superpower is your imagination. Now, I didn't always feel this way. My dad was an engineer, so I received an engineer's raising. And when the time came, I went to engineering school so I could become a real engineer, just like my dad. And do you know, the whole time I was in school, I never took a course in imagination. Can you believe it? They taught me how to use a slide rule, but they never taught me how to use my imagination. They taught me the importance of statistics and calculus, but they didn't teach me the importance of my imagination. So for most of my life, I regarded imagination as kind of cool, but not really all that important. But recently, I've come to understand that your imagination is the single most important factor in getting what you want. Because you see, every accomplishment, every invention, every great achievement started in someone's imagination. Whether you're talking about designing a new app for your smartphone, deciding what to have for dinner, or landing a man on the moon, it starts with someone imagining how wonderful it would be to do that. Now, many people disagree with this, saying, now, Jim, it takes work. It takes determination. It takes drive to achieve something. Imagination isn't enough. And you know what? They're right. It does take work, a lot of it, but it also takes imagination. And I maintain that imagination is more important. It's more important than work. It's more powerful than work. It's a superpower. And I will show you why right here. Do you know what this is? It's a seed. I found it lying on the ground this morning. I don't know what kind of seed it is, but it's a seed. And you know what? When I plant this seed in some soil and I water it and I fertilize it, something magical happens. In a short time, I might have a beautiful flower, or maybe a healthy vegetable, or if I've got the time and it's the right seed, stand back, because in a few years, that little seed is going to grow into a magnificent oak tree with branches reaching to the sky. Any of these things could come about from that tiny seed. But here's the thing I want you to understand. If you take that same plot of land and you water it and you fertilize it, but you don't plant the seed at the beginning, do you know what you get? That's right. You get mud. Mud, nothing but mud. Nothing happens unless you first plant the seed in the soil. The other things are important, but it's the seed that determines what is going to happen. And it's the same way with life. Because you can work and toil and sweat over a project all you want. But if you don't start with the seed of imagination, nothing happens. It isn't just my opinion. Albert Einstein, you may have heard of him, he was a fairly smart man. Einstein once said, imagination is more important than knowledge. For imagination is limited, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the world. Another great genius, my dad, agreed with him. He said the same thing, but he said it a little differently. And that's the thought that I want to leave you with tonight. When you decide to use your superpower, when you commit to tapping the limitless possibilities of your imagination, my friends, that is when you will claim your birthright and fulfill your destiny. Because you see, my fellow Toastmasters, it is true. Imagine how great you will be. Madam Contest Master.
Thank you, Jim, for a very thought-provoking speech. I know if I were judging a speech contest, I'd be giving you very high marks. I too had one of those genius dads, by the way. One of his favorite jokes that he used to tell all the time was, look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a bird. Okay, so our second speaker for tonight is David Carr. David's speech is titled The New Way of Organizing Your Agenda. This is from Vision Communication Level 4, Building Skills, Communicate Change. David is a professional technology writer and editor, as well as the creator of several WordPress plugins, including the one we use to organize our agenda. He's claiming time on tonight's speaking schedule to demonstrate the new and improved version of the role sign-up and agenda management functions, now mostly debugged. These improvements required him to learn some of the same user interface technologies employed in web apps like Facebook and Trello, and he hopes you will see the benefits. Please welcome Toastmaster David Carr, the new way of organizing our agenda.
Thank you, Kim. Now, I apologize to anybody who feels like they're in reruns here, because a bunch of you have seen some version of this before, but it's getting better, it's getting slicker, it's getting wonderful, and I want to share it with the world. I certainly want you guys to be productive in using these tools to organize your participation in our club, or if you're in a club leader, to organize a meeting that you are in charge of as an officer or just as Toastmaster of the day. So I'm going to take you on a little tour, and I've asked for 8 to 10 minutes to talk, followed by a couple of minutes for Q&A. And I'll show you this on a couple of different websites. I have a demo site over here where this is set up, and the actual agenda sign up or role sign up functions aren't going to look all that different, except you might notice that these things happen a little bit faster. When I take a role, it immediately appears on the agenda. When I withdraw from the role, it immediately disappears from the agenda. And we do have this active on the Online Presenters website. So some of you have been getting used to it, or at least hopefully getting used to it over the last couple of weeks. Kim contacted me at one point and said there's no way to edit the word of the day or the theme for the meeting. So there was a way, but the button was in a different spot. So I put a button back underneath the word of the day. So these are the organizing blocks of our agenda. So if I click on edit here, it will take us over to the word of the day in this editor mode. There's also this series of little buttons along the bottom of the screen. They say sign up, edit, suggest. Now, suggest is where I'm nominating somebody for a role. I'm not assigning it to them. I'm not locking it in on the agenda, but I'm saying I think you'd be good for this and trying to make it easy for them to agree. And let me show you what that looks like. So I'll nominate Abraham Lincoln that he ought to give a speech. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong site. I'm on the real site. Let me do it on my demo site so that I'm not causing rampant confusion as much as I sometimes do. I'll pick this person actually and say, I'm nominating you from a role. And when I do that, I don't know whether you can see, but when I choose somebody off the agenda, I can see when they last did the role. So I can see when they last spoke. Actually, it hasn't been that long ago for this person. Maybe I'll pick somebody who hasn't spoken since October. So I say, you haven't done this lately. And I will send them off a note. And I get a little preview down here of what that would look like. Actually, I have a version of this open in my Gmail. So it comes in, I'm nominating you for a role. It can have a personalized note so that you're reaching out specifically to that person, and they can click. And this with one click, without them even necessarily being logged in, will say, I've recognized you, let's sign you up, and we can confirm that we're going to take that role. Yeah, if somebody else had grabbed the role in the meantime, it would offer them another role. But really the idea is just to lure them into the website and get them making more active use of its capabilities. But probably the most powerful thing that I have added in this version is some capability to really reorganize the agenda without wading into a lot of the details of WordPress. So I don't know if I, at the beginning of this, explained the context, but for several years I've been working on something called the WordPress for Toastmasters project that allows you to use the world's most popular web publishing platform to organize the marketing content of your website. And WordPress is great for writing blogs and customizing your homepage. I've also been trying to train people to go into the WordPress editor and edit their agendas. So this is kind of, I can admit it now that I have an alternative. This is kind of a kludge. Kludge is an engineering term that Jim may be familiar with. It's a workaround. It's a way of making something work that really shouldn't work. But each of the roles on our agenda is represented as a content block in this document, the same as I can add an image or a heading or a paragraph. I can add a Toastmasters role. And if I want to add another one, I click here, and part of the confusion actually is one of the reasons it's been difficult to train people on this is they get distracted by all these other things that they're being offered. To add an image or a video or whatever, things that aren't as necessary to organizing a Toastmasters meeting. Whereas here I can go into this tab called Organize. And if I want to add a new role to the agenda, so maybe this club hasn't had a humorist before, and we're going to add a humorist. So I say I want to add a role, and there were only a few choices. There was a role, or there were a couple of different kinds of notes. I can call it the humorist, I can call it the joke meister. A lot of people have this on their agenda. They call it all sorts of different things. I save that. And then if I went back to the sign up form, I should see joke meister is a role that somebody can take. So it's making it a lot easier, I hope, to train people on how to use this by giving them an agenda organizing mechanism that is just focused on Toastmasters stuff. Now, also, if I want to rearrange things, see, I already did have a humorist in here, but maybe the joke meister tells a bad joke, and then, so that we'll put them before the humorist who can tell a real joke. So I can drag and drop to move things around. It didn't put it in quite the right place, but I can use these little up-down arrows too. And behind the scenes, what this is doing actually is rewriting this document. So if I were to reload this, I should see Joke Meister show up on here someplace too. Okay, there it is. But I'm allowing them to edit the document, work with the same content while working within a framework that is much more specific to Toastmasters. This required a ton of work. I've been learning technologies that were invented by Facebook to make more interactive user interfaces, and the drag and drop feature actually comes from Trello, the project management tool that some of you may have used on the web. It allows you to kind of represent whatever you're organizing as a bunch of little project cards, and you can drag them from spot to spot. So I'm using React, beautiful DND for drag and drop, although my friend from Dungeons and Toast, I think, thinks it must be the other kind of DND. But at any rate, there's tools also if I want to add a note to my agenda. So this is a new agenda note. Agenda note is usually something like a 5-minute break. So here is the portion of the meeting where we take a 5-minute break. And I can allow 5 minutes for that activity. And if I scroll down here, if you look at the next block of time, you will see that it actually changes when I change this. We should see, yes, that the next role, the start time actually changes when I change the amount of time allowed for this one. So there is a lot of power here, but also hopefully some simplicity. So I put this down as the managing change speech, because one of the things I have had to learn along the way is that it does throw people when they've gotten used to doing it one way, and they got used to the idea that there would be an edit button or link and a suggest button or link. They actually got used to doing it that way, and I'm trying to say that this is so much better. But I also, if I can just give them the link that they're used to in the spot where they're used to finding it, that's also a good thing. So edit and suggest are in here as buttons, but you can also move into the edit mode from the buttons along the bottom. And then from here, you can assign other people to roles. If you've got a phone call or a text message or something saying that Abe can't make it and this other person will take over, you can switch these things around. With that, I'd like to break and see if there are, in fact, any questions. I was hoping to get some WordPress for Toastmasters people to show up tonight. I don't seem to necessarily have, unless Johnny Randolph got that particular email. I think I'm striking out there.
I have a question if I can, David.
Yes, sir.
From a user experience point of view, does it sometimes make more sense to just throw out the baby with the bathwater and start again from scratch? It seems to me that you are trying to make this as easy as possible, but you're trying to retrofit everything back into it so that we don't get lost. I'm just wondering, sometimes is it better to just say, nah, that was a great project, but let's do something completely different?
Well, in some ways I'm doing that, Graham, because I've throwing out an awful lot of work that I've done in the past to make the existing agenda snazzier and more responsive and allow you to, am I out of my 2 minutes for Q&A as well, Sonny?
You know what? I'm sorry. Nobody told me in advance that I have a system. You are good for 1 minute.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm tossing out a lot of work that I've done in the past to sort of incrementally make things better. This is really a complete overhaul. And then I'm having to go back and sort of add things back in. For example, somebody pointed out to me when I turned this on for my home club that they'd gotten used to having that button that they could click to say, I'm going to be absent for the next meeting. And that had disappeared because I'd kind of forgotten that needed to be there too. And so now it's back. So, but I came a ton of really tough, at least tough for me, technical challenges over the last month. Now I feel like I'm down to the finishing touches part of refining it, making it better, and hopefully making sure that people will agree that it really is an improvement. Mrs. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. Wow, it's obvious you've worked really hard to improve the Online Presenters website. And you are such a sweetheart for doing such hard work for all of us here at Online Presenters. Again, our timer for tonight is Sunny Fridge. Sunny, could you please give a timer's report for the 2 speeches?
Yes, Jim Barber's Look Up in the Sky, 7 minutes and 9 seconds, he qualified. David Carr's Debug Agenda System, 10:55 for his 8 to 10 minute speech and 2 minutes for his Q&A. In theory, he went over his speech by 1 minute. So if he's in the contest, he's disqualified.
Thank you.
Sweetheart, I need to hear from you. Is that okay? Sweetheart Toastmaster.
I'd actually like to go ahead and let the vote count for David as well. This was a last minute thing that he did, and he gave us so much information. I know those of us like me that really needed to hear all that. He went a little long for people like me, so I appreciate it, and I move to vote that he is qualified for the vote. So thank you, Sunny, and please post the times in the chat. And now, if everyone, you probably already did that though. Now, if everyone could please take a moment to cast your vote for Best Speaker of the Day, that would be great. And thanks to you all for that. We now move on to the table topics impromptu speaking portion of the meeting. Tonight's table topic master is Andre Smolenko. Please welcome Andre.
Thank you very much, Kim. My fellow online presenters, what an amazing day today, or is going to be soon. St. Valentine's. And it's us, our amazing Toastmaster of the day, her favorite Miss Blondini put it today. It's all about celebration. So let's celebrate. Keep it in mind when I will ask you those questions. My role is simple. I have a question for you, and when I call the volunteer by force, you would need to come up with a speech, a short speech, 1 to 2 minutes, on a number of mischievous questions that I have for you. At the end of our rounds, our great timer, Sunny Fridge, will give us your times, and then you will vote for your favorite table topics. So let's start right now. My first table topic sounds like this. Imagine you are a leader of a global political party called Stop Valentine's Day Celebration. You are delivering a speech to your followers. Your speech starts with, I have a dream. What would you say to your people? And this question goes to Hector Cabrera.
I have a dream that one day we will stop wasting all that money in chocolates and love cards and flowers. Did you know how many calories are in that box of chocolates and the impact in your sugar level? Oh, don't get me started with all those beautiful bouquets of flowers, fields that could be full of corn and vegetables, wasted on those roses. What a waste. I envision and I dream that one day those fields will be covered with green beans instead. Forget about the stuffed animals. My kids have enough to fill 3 rooms worth of it. I would rather use that space to put more books. And because of that, I was chosen to be the leader of this movement. Also because my kids and my wife threw me out of the house. But I command you to think about these thoughts and this vision of a Valentine-free world full of vegetables and books and healthy food. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Oh, what a speech, Hector. I think I would vote for you. At least I would consider after that. Thank you. And we're moving on with our table topics. Please listen to this question. You are a naughty fairy who wants to spoil Valentine's Day celebration for all sweethearts around the world. What would you do to spoil it? And this question goes to Johnny Laidlaw.
I read that book. It's called A Midsummer Night's Dream. I took it as my instructional manual. Puck has always been someone I could look up to. I mean, after all, people don't actually know what they want until you give them what they asked for. Then it becomes abundantly clear that what they thought they want, they didn't want. For example, I said to myself, I really don't want to go after Hector. And just like that, miraculously, here I am, the speaker after that. Once you give somebody what they ask for, it's the ultimate way to make sure things go the way that they should. Now, if you read the book A Midsummer Night's Dream, you'll understand the sweetheart beauty of it is when everyone ends up with a donkey's head or connected to the wrong person or tied to some god that they didn't know about or have any idea or how to fix it or change it, but it was what they asked for, then you make sure everybody has a happy Valentine's Day. And I can tell you, as a Jamaican, they'll eventually be asking you for the cardboard and the pickets to say, we are going to protest this. And Hector will end up with extra people for him to join his movement. Back to you, our table topics master.
Thank you very much, Johnny. I just can't stop laughing. It looks like Hector and Johnny already have something going on in terms of St. Valentine's policies. Thank you. And we continue with a little bit naughty questions. Imagine that you are a lawyer representing your client, St. Valentine's Day. You need to convince the jury that Valentine's Day celebration is more important than Christmas, New Year, and even Thanksgiving. What would you say? And this question goes to our club president, Andrew Byrne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. So I'm a lawyer, and I've been employed by somebody that has the idea that Valentine's Day should be more important than other holidays that we're accustomed to participating in. Well, might be that the employer was funded with dark money by the retail association, because Valentine's Day is only second to Christmas in terms of generating the most revenue. Hallmark would be amongst the retailers promoting that. So the question is, how important is the holiday, and how important it is to individuals to celebrate that? We've learned during the 2 to 3 years of COVID that people are becoming estranged, isolated, lonely, and depressed. And Valentine's Day is a great way of focusing your energies on connecting with other people, not necessarily with Zoom, but connecting with other people. Tonight's news, for example, had a whole segment on kids and how isolated they've become, how depressed, and how suicide rates are going up. They are learning a course on happiness and how to be happy, as well as gratitude. I think that that's a good thing. Valentine's Day is a way of showing gratitude for those that raise you, those that you love, and those that you want to love. I think that we're on the right track to change our focus, and the focus should be on Valentine's Day.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Lawyer, for St. Valentine's Day. And it sounds to me quite convincing. Thanks. And the next question, again, please listen carefully. The words are important because anyone can be called to answer this. Imagine you are the spirit of Valentine's Day and you don't want to go to work. You're tired of helping people to fall in love, but your wife insists on you going to work. What would you say to your wife? And Rudolph, Johnny, this question goes to you.
Mr. Table Topics Master, could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yes, certainly, Rudolph. You are the spirit of Valentine's Day and you don't want to go to work. You are tired of helping people to fall in love, but your wife insists on you going to work. What would you say to your wife?
Good evening, Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmaster, and myself as being the guest here today. Well, today is Valentine's Day. And yes, the mortgage is due, the utilities are due, and I should go off to work. I should find a way to support our family, to ensure that our children have college tuition, to ensure that we have transportation to get back and forth to all of our objectives. Well, my love, I'm willing to sacrifice all of that for just a few more hours with you today. You see, it's not about me not wanting to go to work. It's not about me not wanting to take care of us. It's about me wanting to spend a little bit more time with you. Because we had a pandemic. We lost some people. Some people that we knew are not here. So I value each and every second. And while I can't go out every single day and express it the way that I really want to, for this day that the world has set apart to express love, I want to take full advantage of that and spend that time with you. So love, I don't want to go to work. I want to work on helping us be better than what we are. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Wow, what again? What a convincing speech. Don't want to go to work. I want to stay with you, honey. I like that. Well, thank you for that. I would say that will conclude the table topics parts of the evening. And I would like to ask our timer, Signy Fridge, has everyone qualified for voting?
Yes, everyone has qualified, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Sunny. And I'm going to post now in the chat names of all the table topics participators and with brief explanation about their speeches. And you can vote by the favorite table topics by sending your votes or using that smart link that our vote counter, Carolina, is posting in the chat. So click on the link and cast your vote for the best table topics. I think I'm done. I'm gonna go and celebrate St. Valentine's. It's about time. And probably back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Andre. And we do hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day, because you made all of our Valentine's Day all that much better because of the wonderful table topics. Your questions really brought out interesting parts of people's personalities with the speeches. It was great. Our next portion of the meeting is the evaluation portion. Our general evaluator for tonight is Andy Byrne. He will lead the evaluation portion of the meeting. Please welcome Andy.
Thank you very much. The purpose of the evaluation section is the most important part of the meeting. It's the most important because we're providing feedback for individuals to help them grow. And that's what we do. We will also hear reports from each of the people that are known as functionaries, those that are leading our efforts to provide growth and insight into our meeting. Lastly, I'll give a general review of how we did as an organization during this rendering of our club. That's the lineup for today. So at first, I'll have the first evaluator for Jim Barber. And would that person identify themselves? It's Graham.
That would be me. Yep.
So Graham, please tell us about Jim Barber and his speech.
As general evaluator, normally when we're giving an evaluation for a presentation in Toastmasters, it's based on a specific set of criteria for that project. It might be an icebreaker, it might be A, B in earnest, it might be use visual aids, it might be whatever. Tonight, I'm going to be evaluating Jim's speech just as a contest speech. And so I won't be using the usual say nice things, make some suggestions, say other nice things, because Jim knows he's a good speaker. He's obviously competing and he wants to become the best possible speaker he can in a contest. And so everything I say will be based on that. The first thing I have to say is that I really loved the structure of Jim's presentation, and I particularly loved his call to arms to us at the end to imagine what we could do, imagine what we could be. So the structure and the conclusion I thought were really good. The introduction needs a little work, and I'll explain why. Jim's title, Look Up in the Sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, ... was then stomped on by Jim doing exactly the same thing when he began. Jim would be better, I believe, to change the title to his speech, something like Your Superpower or Our Superpower, and then start with Look up in the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Then do the Amy Cubby pose, because that really works well, and then and say that was the soundtrack to my growing up. Madam Contest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests. Don't do the Madam Contest Toastmaster before you actually get to flesh that bit together into one bit that holds together, if you make the point. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Jim was reading this presentation. Now, Jim has prepared a beautiful presentation, and when he loses the notes and stops reading, it will be significantly better. Why? Not because the words will be better, although there are a couple of suggestions I will make in terms of phrasing, but because he can then use gestures. Things like, I could use a slide rule, or I could use imagination. I could use a calculator, or I could use imagination. Whatever you do, use the, or I could use imagination. Whatever gesture you use for imagination, keep repeating that gesture every time you talk about using imagination, because that then reinforces the point that you're trying to make. Something that I thought worked particularly well was Jim's imaginary seed that he took out of his pocket. I could see that seed, even though there was no seed there for me to see. And that's why when Jim said, from that tiny seed, a tree could grow. No. From this tiny seed, there could be flowers. From this tiny seed, there could be. From this tiny seed, a great oak could grow. Those are the changes that I would make. But it was a great presentation, and I love the message, and don't lose the ending. That call to imagination, that call to arms at the end, I think is one of the highlights of this presentation. Good luck, Jim. It's going to be a great speech. General Evaluator.
Andy, I believe it's back to you as General Evaluator.
Yes, I didn't want to cut Graham off. I didn't know if he was going to say anything more. Next, we have evaluator number 2 is Carl Walsh, and he's going to be evaluated David's presentation. Back to you, Carl.
Thank you, Andy. You have a specific task here, and a somewhat difficult task here. It's something that I went through in business, where you are presenting changes to a system that people already use, and you want them to start using the changes. What that means is you have to start off by striking a sweetheart deal with them by always emphasizing the benefits from the changes. In other words, we always have to be selling what's in it for them. And you can't let very much time go by or much demo go by without emphasizing this is so much better for you, not for me, but for you. You have to keep selling that throughout. One of the ways to do that is to engage the audience or users a bit more throughout the presentation. Find ways to get them involved so that they're with you and they stick with you. One of the things that's very important in selling this sweetheart deal is by emphasizing the need for change. And by selling the benefits, you are underlining the need for these changes to be made. So always, it's a sales pitch. It really is when you do a demo like this. So one other rather major issue is try not to end with Q&A. For one thing, you never know what kind of question you're going to get, and will it take you in an area to let's say, a direction that you don't want to go. And instead, after the Q&A, give yourself time after the Q&A to wrap up, tie a ribbon and put a bow on top, and leave the audience with a motivation to actually use the changes that you're talking about. Get them excited so that when they're presented with it, we know there's going to be a learning curve in the beginning. They're going to have to learn what they're doing. Although I must say, David, when I went in there today, I thought this is a huge improvement. I think you've done a wonderful job here. Well done. But people always hate to change. So just keep selling that idea that this is much easier to see what's going on, much easier to use, and much easier, less time to get things done. All those elements you can use. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Carl. At this point, I'd like to call on the observations and insights of some of our functionaries. The first is Isabel. She was our chat monitor. Tell us what your thoughts were for today.
During today's meeting, I observed the good use of the chat function. Members use the chat effectively, post and exchange information. And it's full of love and encouragement also in the chat. A few noteworthy chat messages are many heartfelt congratulations to Rosanna for being an official author. And also during the table topics, members expressed their appreciations on fellow members' impromptu speeches. And several members commended our table topic master for his naughty but fun questions. That's my summary. Back to you, Mr. President and General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. Can I report from the grammarian?
Yes, I had a lot of notes I took for what I heard tonight. Several times the word of the day was used. Sweetheart was used a few times. Heart was used much more. So it was very significant. It played a part in the table topics and several of the, especially table topic presentations, as well as the topics. So if I back up, I love some of the sayings that were said throughout the whole meeting. So I'm just going to say a few of them. You've been in our hearts. I think Kim said that to Hector. Rosina, again, congrats on being an author. There was a lot of congrats in the chat, so I wanted to add to that. And lots of love expressed, even if she didn't say the word of the day. Joni talked about the differences between heart and sweetheart. So good job on that duo. Kim Leeming, I just have to give you such huge kudos because it's not just what you're saying, it's how you say it. You bring laughter, you're creative, you have little props. We can score your abilities as Toastmaster of the day as tops. So good job. It's really entertaining to hear you. You're very well versed in that role. Tip of the day, heart to heart, leading with the heart, a leader with the heart. Others that I noticed, the word imagined was not word of the day, but it was very significant. Superpower, and being imagining your superpower is the most part of success. It made me think of John Lennon. Andre had some excellent table topics. Naughty but nice. And a lot of creative answers with role playing almost. So that was a different way to do table topics. How to be happy as well as have gratitude. Andrew Byrne, thank you. The spirit of Valentine's Day. think those were the main ones. So kudos to everybody. There's just a lot you could share for what I heard as the grammarian. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. The counselor, Carolina. Carolina. Your report.
Candy, can you see my screen? You
Yes.
are very good speakers. I only counted a couple of for Kim, a few for David, and a couple of for Carl. That's my report. Congratulations to everyone. Back to you, Auntie.
Thank you. And Sonny, you are our timer. How do we do in managing our time as a club?
We did very well, Mr. President and General Evaluator. We had 2 disqualifications. Let's see. One was David Carr, but we gave him a little grace, a little heart. And also Graham Cairns in his evaluation of Jim Barber was 341. So he also went over. Other than that, everyone did well. And the individual times are in the chat.
Great. Thank you very much. Do we have any other functionaries I have not touched upon yet?
Yes, that would be me, President.
Yes, the watcher. Thank you, Joni.
And as you can see, my eyes were filled with love today, and everyone, or most people online, struck my sweet tooth because apparently Valentine's is the season for little heart candies. But everyone was in the mood for love, and it showed in their background. Back to you, President Andrew Burns.
Thank you. My overall evaluation was this. We started on time, although we still are falling into the trap of having a few roles needing to be organized at the beginning of the meeting. This is something that we've been working on for a while. People need to step up, and perhaps with David's changes, you'll all go explore it, and we will have it all taken care of before Monday, maybe even by Sunday. So hopefully everybody will take heed to that. We'll move. The meeting went smoothly and everybody did their roles well. And at this point, I got to turn it back over to our Toastmaster of the day, Kim.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you to everyone for being such online presenters sweethearts, which in turn resulted in a wonderful Toastmasters meeting. Before I hand the virtual gavel back to our president, I'd like to leave you with a couple of Valentine's Day jokes. Looks like we have a little time left. So what did one dinner plate say to the other on Valentine's Day? Tonight, dinner's on me. Ha ha ha. Did you hear about the spider wedding on Valentine's Day? Yes, now they're newly webs. What did the graham cracker say to the marshmallow? I love you some more and some more every day. With that, I will now hand the meeting back to our president, Andy Byrne.
Thank you, Kim. We appreciated those jokes and humor, lightheartedness for all of us. I'm going to introduce our guest tonight. And first, again, congratulate Hector on rejoining the club. We appreciate you taking those steps, and our numbers are now going up. Next, Johnny Randolph. You've had an opportunity to sample our meeting. You've been exposed to the Midwest and Columbus and the groups there. We actually had another visitor from your area, and that was Tracy, 5-time DTM.
Tracy Baker?
Yeah.
Why did I not know that?
I don't know. Keeping you informed. Bring more people from Ohio. I came from Dayton. Go ahead, Johnny.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. President and fellow Toastmasters. The objective of the meeting, as it was explained to me, was to learn how to more effectively learn how to conduct online presentations. And from my observation, I think that this club specifically excelled at that objective. There were a lot of things that I've never seen in a Toastmasters meeting before that are being done right here. For example, the watcher, I love that role. That was something unique. And I could tell that this is a club that not only wants to support its member, but you provide that candid feedback to help your members reach their objectives. I thought Kim did an absolutely fantastic job as the Toastmaster of the day. Coughing up a frog, a little horse, those were hilarious and added a real touch of personality to her role as being Toastmasters of the day. Overall, I had a great time. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I would like to come back and visit you all again before, I maybe made the determination to join an advanced club. So
Well,
thank you
we
very much.
very much welcome you. We look forward to seeing you. Tracy, you're a guest at our club tonight, correct? Stop your mute. Come on, join us. There you go.
Yes, I'm a guest. This is my second meeting.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a teacher. I'm certified in pre-K through 3, and I usually speak in front of children. So I'm trying to get experience speaking in front of adults, and specifically online, I'm going to be teaching adults. I'm going to be a volunteer for an organization, and part of my duties will be to teach the material that they want me to present. So I'm looking forward to getting some experience in that.
And what did you learn from our club tonight?
That this is all fun, that it can be a really good time. It's like a party.
It is. And we're glad that you came by. One of the things that we put in the chat box for everybody is the information about the club from the dashboard. And the dashboard has where we were or where we are currently in terms of the number of metrics that we are meeting. And that's called the dashboard. You can see where we have some needs for your own focus. The first is we need one more completion on level 1, one more completion on level 2. Tonight's board showed we needed 4 members, and with Hector, that means we need 3 new members, and we need 4 people to make the training documented so that we have all the available points that we do normally. But lastly, it's time to think about renewals. David has it set up on the website for easily paying your dues. And I'm sure Sarah is looking forward to having 100% compliance with all the officers and members before the end of this month, so that